Hey, hi, hello there. Welcome to episode 120 of the GVGCast. It's always a pleasure to be here with you all. I am your host for today, Ash Paulson, and I am joined by the one and only, my good friend and GVG partner in crime, Daniel Alba. How's it going, my good sir?
Hello. Good. How are you all
Hello.
doing?
Good. I'm glad it's Friday. It's been a it's a busy week. Busy week. Looking forward to kind of getting a little relaxation time in this weekend. Um, It's been a surprisingly busy news week on the Nintendo front. Like, there haven't been any directs or anything, of course, but just randomly we're getting stuff like Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition and then Nintendo Music. Like, it's just been a weirdly busy week. We've had some videos go up on the channel about both of those things. If you haven't checked them out yet, make sure to do so maybe sometime this weekend. But for now, how are you doing, Daniel? What you been playing lately? What you been up to? How's it going over there in your neck of the woods?
This week was an interesting one. I had started playing, well, actually playing Banjo-Tooie on stream right here
Right.
on Good Vibes Arcade. I did a little video on that recently. I did a social media post actually about the Super Banjo cheat that a lot of people never knew about. So I said,
Same.
"Here, I'll share this in a short video and see who gets some benefits out of this." Because I mentioned over and over in that video, like I'm not saying it corrects game design or anything, but it makes me enjoy it more than I already had because it lets you traverse the world almost twice as fast. So that world is big and expansive compared to the original Banjo-Kazooie, which
Oh yeah.
didn't need that code. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. It might make your playthrough or your next playthrough game even more fun. Yeah, I'm currently like about halfway through the game on stream. So next week I'll do hopefully the rest of it, or at least the good majority of the game at least.
Nice.
Looking forward to corporate disdain with Grinty Industries as I always do
Yeah.
when I play that game. Also this week another release. It's not strictly Nintendo, but Pokemon TCG Pocket came out, and I've been playing that too.
Oh, cool.
A lot of people in our circle, or in my little circle here, we've all downloaded it and are friended up together, and it's fun. It's more engaging than I thought it was going to be. Like there are, of course, you know, avenues to do monetization, but if you wanted to just play every day, you unlock points to open card packs, and you see the beautiful arts that's on there. There's a condensed, like minimalistic version of the trading card game that you can play on that. You can make 20 card decks. You can challenge you can challenge AI solo, or you can challenge friends if you want to. And so it's been fun to like put those together. I have my only knowledge of the TCG is like the Game Boy titles, both of them.
Mhm.
And so this is actually pretty good for me because it remains pretty simplistic. It doesn't have any of those like advanced mechanics that you would get from the TCG as of today. So it's a good gateway to get into the series. They just need to make a game that has a story around it, like the Game Boy games did way back then. And I'm sure they
Right.
can pull in a lot of people to get into the TCG. But yeah, it's been those, and then just metaphor on the side. I'm still I'll finish it eventually. Every time I kind of pulled away a bit to do a lot of work for the channel this week especially. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm more than engaged to have that done before the end of the year. So yeah.
Nice, nice. I could have sworn that I knew everything about the Banjo games, or at least the first 2 games, and was one of those people that did not know about the Super Banjo code, and so when I do eventually go and replay Tui, I will absolutely be using that code. I replayed both games years back, via the Xbox versions, and those are, to me, my favorite versions. I think my camera just froze. Oh, how annoying.
Uh-oh.
I'm so sorry, guys. I'll try to get this fixed really quick. But yeah, so I did already replay both games several years back via the Xbox versions. But I will certainly be doing using that code when I do eventually replay them yet again. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know why my camera's not coming back. Sorry, I'll keep trying to fix it as I keep talking.
It's
But
all good.
uh, yeah, but
Mm.
otherwise, I've been chipping away at various games. I'm chipping away at Silent Hill 2. It's such a good remake. Bloober Team did such a good job with it, and played some of it last night. In fact, for Halloween, with the lights off, headphones on, it was great. Super spoopy. Also, I've still been chipping away as I continue to at Octopath Traveler 2, the game that I refuse to put down because it's just so good that I don't care how long it takes me to finish it. I am hell bent on eventually finishing it. And I'm making some decent progress. I have officially finished everyone's chapter 2s and have done a couple of chapter 3s, and I'm like super over leveled for everything story related now. So it should be pretty smooth sailing from here on out. There's my camera; it's back. It's just such an amazing game that I don't care how long it takes me. I have to keep playing it until I'm done. Of course, I am very excited about Mario and Luigi Brothership coming next week. It's like less than a week
A
away
week
now. It's
now.
crazy. Yeah, so that's really soon. Of course, playing Super Mario Party Jamboree when I can. And yeah, there's just so much to play right now. There are certain games that I still want to play that I haven't been able to fit in yet, such as Neva. That came out earlier this month. The Plucky Squire, which came out like over a month ago now. Although it sounds with Squire, maybe it's a good thing I waited because I remember hearing there were some weird bugs and stuff closer to that game's launch. So it sounds like it's probably good that I waited for a little bit of polish on that one. And then yeah, just this weekend, the time with the time change, we get daylight saving time, which I'm never a fan of. At least this part of fall and winter are my favorite seasons. Winter is my favorite season by far, but it comes with the disadvantage of those shorter days. I hate when it gets dark at like 4 or 5 p.m. I just hate it. I don't like it at all. I'm not looking forward to the time change, as much as I'm happy that fall and winter are here once again. But I just wish we could just abolish DST and just keep it the way it is right now all year long. I'd be so much happier if we could do that. I suspect the majority of people agree with me on that. Um, but yeah, then of course next week there's a lot of intensity and anxiety going into next week because it is of course the American election. This is where I say if you haven't voted yet, go vote. Your vote is your voice. Absolutely go vote if you haven't yet, or make sure to go out and vote on election day, as I will be. But yeah, before we get too much further into things, though, we have a few actually patron birthday shout outs to go through. First of all, happy belated birthday to Larkrin, who celebrated theirs on October 28th. Belated birthday to Fangs, who celebrated theirs on the 30th. Happy belated to Kairudo, who celebrated theirs yesterday on Halloween itself. And then finally, happy belated to Adam Davis, whose birthday I was not able to actually discern specifically, but it was recently. So happy belated birthday to all four of you. And yeah, so let's go ahead. I guess we pretty much talked about what we've been playing and everything. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the week from the news, some of the news from the week. And like I said, there is a surprising amount of it. Um, First off, being Xenoblade Chronicles X, it's back. One of the most wanted Wii U to Switch ports over the last several years. It's finally happening. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition is coming out on March 20th, 2025, and I could not be happier because this is the one Xenoblade game that I didn't get to play back at its original launch. I just never really got around to it. There were too many other things to play. Um, I suspect it won't end up necessarily being my favorite just because of kind of the differences in how the story is handled and how it's not necessarily as story driven on the face of it as the main trilogy. But this is still a game whose world I absolutely want to explore. I know Elma is a beloved character by fans. I'm looking forward to seeing why. The main hub area is New Los Angeles. How can I not love that? It's like a futuristic version of my own home city. And the soundtrack is insane, as usual. So there's so much that I'm looking forward to discovering about Xenoblade X. And Daniel, I suspect you're quite excited about this too, right, man?
I was the one guy in the conversation in which I had no experience with with Xenoblade Chronicles X. I had mentioned before in that discussion that we had this week too with John and Derek. I hadn't really gotten into Xenoblade at that time. Like I tried Chronicles, the number title on the Wii beforehand. I guess it was the gameplay that didn't really fit me, I think. But after that, so yeah, I saw X was coming out on Wii U, so I wasn't really pulled to get it because I figured it was more of the same. But then everyone got so excited and praised Xenoblade Chronicles 2 when that came out on Switch that I ended up going back to my physical copy on the Wii. I beat that game, and then I never really went back to get Xenoblade Chronicles X. One of the reasons, actually, was I didn't have the storage space to save it. If you remember, even if you have a Wii U, if you have the standard version Wii U, that game doesn't even fit on that console. You
Yeah.
had to have the other version of the black Wii U in order to actually have enough space to even have it on there. So yeah, I think that was one of the reasons why I hadn't gotten that game, was I didn't want to just delete all the stuff else I had on the Wii U to download it. So I'm wondering how they're going to optimize it for the Switch this time, because that was like 22 gigabytes on the Wii U, which is very large, in comparison to anything that's on the Switch right now. But I mean, Monolith Soft, they're a bunch of wizards, so I don't know how
Oh
they do
yeah.
this stuff. So they'll optimize it in some ways, and it does look optimized already. The character models look amazing as it is. The updates, they look so much nicer and more emotive than they were in the previous iteration of this game.
It looks so much better, the character models and the faces especially.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited to jump into it and see what I was missing after all this time. Because as I think most people would say that their experience with Elma was in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, when she appeared later on as a blade in that game, and you got to talk to her a bit. But yeah, that's the largest amount of exposure I've had to X as far as the actual title goes. So I'm excited to see what I've been missing out on. And yeah.
Yeah, same. It was some great random news to start the week with, and I'm really loving Nintendo just kind of coming out of the woodworks once in a while and just dropping something cool, without a direct, without any prelude or fanfare. They're just like, hey, guess what? This thing you want, it's coming a few months from now. Look forward to it. And then sometimes they'll come out of the woodworks and just drop something and say, hey, it's out now or later today. Check this out. And I, of course, am talking about Nintendo Music, this smartphone app dedicated to streaming Nintendo soundtracks that just dropped midweek. And Daniel, you and I did a discussion about it. And I don't know about you, but ever since we did that discussion, I have actually been going back to the app and continuing to use it. I mean, obviously, yes, I stream video game music from YouTube a lot, and that will continue. But I really like the novelty of the app and some of its features, like being able to extend most of the songs to either 15, 30, or 60 minutes. They already added Mario Wonder's soundtrack yesterday, just the day after the app came out, and then we've got the next one dropping next week. Are you continuing to use the app yourself?
I've been looking at this and seeing what comparisons in audio quality are to versions I've already heard. It's funny to see some of these soundtracks, like for the only one for Game Boy Advance right now is Fire Emblem: The Blazing Blade. The only one for
Right.
GameCube right now is Metroid Prime. So I think they wanted to touch a little bit on their entire history, as well as touch on franchises that are very popular with Nintendo right now. Of course, most of them are from the Switch, uh, like Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, which I'm very amused. I'm happy that Breath of the Wild is on here to shut people up at like there's no soundtrack in this game, when it has probably the most thoughtful soundtrack of Nintendo's history. So I'm glad people can go ahead and give that one a look. And yeah, Mario Wonder is on here now too. That no one expected the day one patch, or the day two patch, I guess. For this for that. And I'm glad there's going to be at least the what it looks like so far. There's going to be at least recent and decent updates throughout the lifespan of this app. If there's one a week, sure, that's better than what we ever got for Nintendo Switch Online's any other eShop service that we've had in the past. So
Yeah. Uh, Katie of the Damned, hella cute. I completely agree. Daniel and I both completely agree. They need to add composer info ASAP. Unfortunately, as I understand it, that's fairly standard Japanese practice not to go into the weeds in terms of individual credits like that. But yes, as a VGM superfan myself, and someone who already knows who composed most of these songs, I would like to see them get their proper due. I'll be curious to see if and how soon after launch they add the soundtracks to new games like Mario and Luigi Brothership. Obviously, we don't have any Mario and Luigi soundtracks on the app yet, but I wonder if Brothership's launch will come along with a coinciding launch of the soundtrack on the app, or maybe a month after, or a couple of weeks after. I'm really curious to see what they do with that. Alpha Lion, you mentioned earlier, there's no Xenoblade yet. Yeah, for me, that's like the biggest the biggest gap for me is like just add the Xenoblade soundtracks, man. That's I want to. I'll play so many of those songs on their 60-minute loop versions and be completely happy doing so. Um,
That's
but
a
yeah,
huge. Those are huge soundtracks too to
yeah,
add on there. And I know I've heard some people lamenting missing certain soundtracks and things like that. There's also licensing issues with some of those as well, like for some of them. So you probably won't see like everyone you can imagine. Uh, as far as Smash Brothers go, you'll probably see as far as Melee because there's a lot of licensing from Brawl onward with other
right.
tracks. So Melee is the last Smash Brothers that's like solely purely just Nintendo content that we'll probably see on there, or the N64. Sure, put the N64 version on there too. That one has a lot of good tracks as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of little things that could be improved upon. Of course, credits would be nice. I'm gonna do my parts to get people to know who did what in these soundtracks. So keep your eyes on Good Vibes Gaming for that later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it's nice to see that Nintendo is, they're actually dipping into a service that they could do that people have been asking for a very long time. There's a lot of fun little quirky things about it too. Like you have obviously all the soundtracks on here. You can extend the music, but then there's also categories divided by character. If you want to listen to all the music for Bowser, you can, and they actually updated it with Mario Wonder music once that dropped the day after. If you wanted to listen to music from like, if you go to Fire Emblem, for example, there's separate little playlists for just battle music, for just like the battlefields, for just the character themes. A lot of interesting stuff that they did with it, and I really appreciate. It's kind of funny still, but I do appreciate that there's a specific screenshot for each song, so you can kind of at a glance know when and where this song played in each title.
I do love that. Yeah. It kinda reminds me of the old iTunes days of, like, finding like, Googling album art and, like, connecting it to the songs in my iTunes database. Like, of course, that's not really a thing that is done anymore, but it definitely brought me those vibes. And, just in general, I mentioned this in our discussion video about it, but it's just so cool to, as a VGM super fan, to see VGM continuing to be legitimized in the West the way it has been in the past decade plus. Like I said, back when I was a kid, if you were into video game music, you were basically shit out of luck unless you could afford to import, soundtracks from Japan, which of course was quite expensive at the time. And there was no YouTube back then. There were no streaming services. There were no concerts. But now it's commonplace to have video game music concerts pop up pretty much everywhere. And of course, you can stream video game music on YouTube no matter where you are. But then you've got stuff like Nintendo Music, with Nintendo actually themselves highlighting the importance of their own game music, and it's just so cool. As someone who's been on this ride for so long, to see video game music finally getting the attention and the legitimization that it has deserved in the West for so incredibly long.
Yeah, we're gonna see more of that attention in the future now because this is an application that's going to be hopefully updated very consistently. And
Yeah.
so as time goes on, I want to see just how much they add. I was worried that we weren't going to see like the full Mario soundtracks until like 20 years from now when the app is still around.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of history in here that people can get familiar with, and I hope that people take the time to go through this because I know there's other easier avenues to listen to these kind of soundtracks on YouTube and whatnot. But I mean, it's all here in one application, and they're mostly extensive. Like there's some like Mario Kart 8 that they don't have all the versions of each song, which would be kind of difficult to do. Like there's front running themes and there's final lap themes that aren't on there. So there's some missing omissions and whatnot here and there, but for the most part, they do have a pretty extensive library of their soundtracks, and I'm hoping that we can see. Yeah, I'm just curious to see what else they're gonna bring in time. So
Same.
very nice.
We got a first time chat from Saidu in our Twitch chat saying they have zero Wii U soundtracks, which is unfortunately true so far. I'm hoping the first one they add there is Yoshi's Woolly World, because that is one of the chillest platformer soundtracks you will ever have the pleasure of listening to. It's such a great, just chill vibe. And yeah, I think if I had to pick one Wii U soundtrack to come first, it would be Yoshi's Woolly World. And that's just a port
Prob-
that I hope we see at some point still as well. I brought that up in my video with John earlier this week, talking about Switch games that still haven't made, or sorry, Wii U games that still haven't been ported to Switch. and Woolly World was probably the number one for me, my number one pick. If I could have any Switch to Wii U port or vice versa, it would be Woolly World.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as Eastman is saying, Mario Kart 8 and Breath of the Wild kind of count as Wii U if technically speaking.
Fair. You know what? Fair. That's
Although
actually a good point.
I,
Yeah.
although at this point there's so much added content on the Mario Kart 8 soundtrack because they did in
Yeah.
fact add the Booster Course Pass tracks as well that it's mostly Switch era at this point
Right.
now, which is really funny to me. I am gonna always champion the fact that we got the Wii channels music as well. Amazing soundtracks that you wouldn't expect to listen to music to look at photos, to read the news to look at the weather. If anybody hasn't checked out the Wii channels music, please do so. There's a lot of chill
They're
themes in
so
there.
good.
All mostly done by Kazumi Tataka, who's done a lot of the Yoshi soundtracks and Animal Crossing as well. So
Right.
those are it's hard to find credits for some of these because it's not actually a game. You have to look at system menu, other credit, what nonsense, to try and find and track down who did these songs. But very very cool. Very much love that. Uh, yeah, that's pretty much what I had to say about that. It's a very cool app, and I hope that people can really indulge in this because I already have quite a bit.
The Wii Channel stuff really brought me back in particular because I had completely forgotten about stuff like the Check Me Out channel. I had completely forgotten that was a thing. The Everybody Votes channel, I used to love that channel, and just hearing the music from that really brought me back. And that
Oh
was a pretty
man,
cool fan focused thing they did, was actually bothering to bring all the Wii channel music back. Because that's something they could very easily have just ignored and lost to and or just leave that to be lost to the mists of time, and they didn't, and it's very cool.
if you ever need to have really critical thinking music playing, just
Mhm.
suggest a question from the Everybody Votes channel. I kid you not. It's one of the
Oh
chillest
yeah.
themes for you to like make a very important decision to. If you need to make something, put that
Yeah.
on loop until you've made your decision. It'll help you clear your thoughts. I guarantee.
Shadow Luigi 10 says they would love to see the Darkwing Duck NES music added to the app, and that's the limitation of this app. Is it's only going to be,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's only going to be Nintendo first party stuff, and I guess technically second party stuff like Pokemon, but you're never going to see Capcom stuff on here unless they're working on something behind the scenes with licensing. Who knows? But my guess and prediction is that we're only ever going to see Nintendo stuff and nothing from Capcom or Konami or Square Enix or anything. So don't get your hopes up for, unfortunately, Darkwing Duck or Mega Man or Castlevania or Final Fantasy. It does make me wish though that these other developers would do their own music apps. I think that would be really cool. Although to be fair, a lot of these soundtracks are also just available on Spotify as well. So there is that too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, really cool stuff. And then actually, there was one more thing. Speaking of like frequent updates, NSO N64 has gotten. We just got Banjo Tooie last week, and then this week they did kind of like a spooky themed, Halloween themed update as well, where we got Shadow Man and Turok 2: Seeds of Evil. Now these are funny because there are remastered versions of both these games already available on the eShop, so it's a little funny that they're now playable in two different ways technically, but I'm loving these more frequent NSO updates, and I hope they keep happening.
Yeah. I'm always excited to see what else they'll add to the service. Still waiting for certain titles to release on things like N64, but there's a lot to keep us occupied right now. So I'm in no hurry to see certain titles release when they'll drop when they drop, basically.
Yeah, I've never played Shadow Man. I played Turok 1 and 2 a ton back in the N64 days, so I'm pretty well versed on those. But Shadow Man is one that just kind of flew under my radar, and I never have played it. So it doesn't look amazing necessarily from the trailer, but I'm down to check it out because it does have that really appealing low poly creepy look to it. The low poly character models of the early N64 and PS1 days were often unintentionally scary because of their lack of detail, and it really plays well into a horror focused game, I think, or horror themed games like Turok and Shadow Man. Katie says Shadow Man is like a precursor to Metroid Prime, which okay, that's a good way to get me to play anything. Tell me that it has any sort of Metroid Prime DNA. That sure, yeah, I'm down. Yeah, of course, GCM of Chaos, Diddy Kong Racing. That's, I think, for Brandon and I, and maybe you too, Daniel. That's like the probably, other than, I would say, even more than DK64. That's like the one we're waiting for, right?
I
For
guess, yeah.
N64.
I mean, I played that that was one of the first games we ever played on Good Vibes Arcade. I played it with Brandon, and we did two-player adventure mode, whatever that would be called. And yeah, it was a good time, but I had a lot of lag, so I want to be able to play with Brandon without that lag
Right.
next time. Um, the one I want to, I guess the one I'm waiting for. I'm gonna, since I'm off the Banjo 2E train now that it's already there. I am along the ride for Brandon to get this thing on here, but I also am waiting for Smash 64. That'd be a fun one to have as well.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
Just a bit of a history lesson more than anything, because it plays very different from the rest of the Smash Brothers series at this point. But
Yeah.
it's a good way to see where the series began and whatnot. But yeah, I'm waiting for DK anything at this point. Just at least we know we're still getting rare games, so that the opportunity is not off the table at this point.
Smash 64 is such a weird one. That seems like such a slam dunk thing to add to allow people to play online. Check out check out the origins of the series for people who maybe didn't play the original. It seems so obvious, and I can't for the life of me figure out why they haven't done it yet. That just seems like the biggest omission. It's so strange.
Clearly, I guess they're doing Smash 64 remake, just those
Clearly, yeah,
12 characters with
clearly, yeah.
uh
So to ask you very quickly about something else, I know you're looking forward to, Daniel. Bandai Namco dropped a gameplay trailer for Tales of Grace's F Remastered earlier this week, and I was wondering if you'd watched it, and if so, how you're feeling about it.
yeah, I took a look at the trailer. I'm glad that we're still paying attention to Grace's FU despite all the other stuff that's coming out recently.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it looks better. It looks nicer. It plays. It not plays. It looks like it plays just as I remember it. They've updated some of the audio effects. Like I remember Hubert has his little gunshots with his weapon, and they sound like laser bullets, like toy lasers, but now they actually sound like gunshots now. Little things like that. They're updating a lot of. There's a lot of attention to detail that they're doing with this, and I'm looking forward to. I'm just looking forward to playing the game.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm checking it out as much as I can. I'm keeping my eyes on it. I'm looking forward to its release date next year. Uh, wait, that is that released. I keep forgetting the release because there's so many other things happening right now.
I know. It is next year though, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be this
Yeah,
year. My computer takes forever to load sometimes. January 17th, so it's very early into the next year. It's not even that far
yeah,
off now.
yeah. That's
So
not. That's only like, yeah, a couple months away.
and I will probably get it for the PS5 because if you get it for Switch, it will run at 30 FPS and everything else runs at
Yeah,
60 FPS.
that's exactly why I got like Sonic X Shadow Generations on PS5. I was like, I will accept nothing less than 60 FPS for a game like that.
I hate
Man, that's actually, oh, good.
I hate that I'm a stickler for things like that now, but it does look better naturally, and I kind of wanted to have it on Switch because then I'd have like three Tales games on the Nintendo Switch. But it originally did come out on the PS3, so I would
Hmm.
rather play it on the console family of consoles that it originally came out on. So yeah, I'm getting it for PS5.
Right, for sure. And that's actually a day after, just a single day after Donkey Kong Country Returns HD lands. I keep forgetting that's
Hmm.
coming. That's January 16th. I keep forgetting that's a thing. Will I 100% that game for the third time? I don't know. I don't know. I 100%ed it both on Wii and 3DS. So I don't know if I'm right for a third playthrough yet, even though I do strongly believe Returns is a great game and gets kind of unfairly ignored because of Tropical Freeze, which argue is the better game. But people act as though Returns was like, it was fine. No, it was great. It was great at the time. It's still great now. And I really hope people who ignored it in favor of Tropical Freeze go back and give it a proper chance because I think Returns was great in its own right.
I suggest you just buy Tales of Graces instead.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Um, it's funny, speaking of release dates and so many things coming out, for the longest time, I was thinking that, I kind of think of the word, or
Mhm.
Fantasian. Fantasian. I thought that was the last game coming out this year that I was like excited for. But then they came out and announced this week that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind is actually coming out December 10th. So I think that, in fact, is going to be the last game of the year that I'm like super looking forward to.
Wow.
And I got to play a bit of this at PAX West a couple of months ago, and it's just got those great retro beat 'em up Shredder's Revenge vibes, and I had a good time with it. And yeah, so that's coming December 10th. Good point, Vedron. Anton Blast is also December, although I don't know the specific date off the
Oh
top of my
boy.
head. But yeah, Anton Blast is coming in December. And then yeah, we got Rita's Rewind, which is looking so good, and Fantasian all in December. So the gaming party does not stop. It is not stopping all the way through the end of the year. Oh, Amareg, Tetris Forever, yeah, which I know John is particularly hyped about. Tetris Forever is also coming in December.
Who said that this was the
Yeah,
last year of the who said that this year wasn't going to have any games, especially towards like the latter half of the year?
right.
Talk with you.
Yeah. And then yes, and I did want to just carve out a little bit of time to mention, and Alpha Lion did say this earlier in chat. The Concord developers getting shut down. That was actually announced the same day as Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. And yeah, our our heart and our feelings go out to Neon Koi and Firewalk Studios. Concord has been permanently shut down. I hate to see what happened to this game and particularly its developers. It's just such a sad ending to just a really wretched story. And I hope everyone involved lands on their feet as quickly as possible, as cleanly as possible. It really is just horrible the way PlayStation, treated that dev team in that game. It really is a shame, and I hope they can make lemonade out of lemons in this case. It really is. Yeah, and as you said,
That
Professor
was
Bonk, Neon Koi didn't even get to release a game, from what we know. Yeah,
that was
8 years and $100 million down the drain.
was a
Yeah,
horrible
sorry, Dana.
horrible foresight from the higher ups thinking that this was going
Yeah,
to be. I mean, when it was conceived, like sure, maybe it had a chance in the market, but then you had to take 8 7 years to make it, and that market has been saturated with a lot more titles that kind of fill that same niche, of which a lot of people are just kind of tired of at this point. And so when a game like Concord comes out, it's not as appealing or as what it might have been years ago. Like they wanted to make this the next Star Wars, which is very already very what's even the word? They're really going for it a lot more than they were thinking they could have handled, and
yeah,
it's unfortunate to see that happen with the developers for sure. But man, it was just it's amazing how tone deaf Sony could have been about this. So yeah, it was very ambitious. So I think I hope
and
Sony
it,
just uses this year to consider like what works for their models, because games that took a lot less time, we already had mentioned this in the same week, Astrobot was very successful, and it didn't need to take millions of dollars or several year, almost over half a decade to make a successful title. And it's the model
yeah,
that Nintendo's been following for a very long time, and they are slowly pulling ahead further and further in multiple ways in this generation. So yeah, hearts go out to the developers that had to work on a game that was mismanaged by a corporation. So
yeah, because it's always the people who pay. It's always the developers, the staff who pay the price, the human cost of blunders like this. It's never the corporate suits who face the fallout from this. It's always the rank and file developers and employees, and the human cost of blunders like this is just unimaginable. And so many people's lives and careers have been upended by this, and we're all hoping for the best for them, of course, obviously, and yeah, all the best on that front. Bolt Mouse X, yes, you're so right. Dragon Quest 3 HD2D comes out in like 2 weeks. It's just it never ends. The just onslaught of games that we're all looking forward to never ends. But for now, it's Brothership, man. I'm gonna play Brothership, and I'm gonna have to stop myself from picking up Dragon Quest until I finish Brothership, because I can't play those two at the same time. I gotta steel myself. I gotta control myself and just finish one RPG and then go to the next one. I can't. I gotta stop myself from getting both. What
I'm
about you,
playing
Danny? Are you gonna get both, or are you just gonna play one or
I'm
the
playing
then the
all of
other?
them.
Or
If I
Yeah,
have to juggle with Metaphor and other titles, I'll do it. I don't know what the problem is. If you can't pay for them, that's one thing. But I'll
that's different,
manage
of course.
I'll manage doing all of them one way or another because these are all titles I want to get into, and I know Brothership and Dragon Quest 3 at the very least. I'm assuming Brothership is going to be a shorter title, not like a
Definitely.
expansive 80-hour RPG. So at least they're at least more digestible in that way. But yeah, I'm probably going to be playing as much of this as I can. Hopefully, just getting as much of it done beforehand, before they
Yeah.
all start releasing, and I have no more time anymore. But yeah, I'm always a big RPG fan, so that's something I really want to be able to. It's a difficult genre to be a fan of when they're all hours and hours long. So
I know, right? And I will still be, chipping away at Octopath 2 alongside Brothership and DQ3. I'm not gonna put those on hold until I finish Octopath because I've been working on Octopath for like more than a year at this point. So yeah, that's just a game I'm gonna continue chipping away at on the side because it's so impossibly long and huge. That's a good out of context quote. On that note, why don't we go ahead and move on to our Patreon topic for the week? And as a reminder, we do have a Patreon at patreon.com/gvgaming, where if you support us at the producer tier for just $10 a month, among other perks, you can suggest topics for us to discuss each week, just like the ones we're about to discuss right now. And Daniel, what's your topic this week, man?
I have a topic from Dad Alpha Lion who is asking, do you think unlocking characters and or stages in multiplayer focused games is a good idea or a bad idea? Asking because I saw some discussion about Mario Party Jamboree over the last few weeks, and some people were disgruntled that they had to unlock boards and characters because it gets in the way of having fun with their friends. Do you share similar sentiments, or is there another reason you do or don't prefer unlocks? Mario Party Jamboree was a weird case. You could just unlock Pauline and Ninja within 5 minutes because there was no. You just had to find them on the map and zoom
Yeah,
in, and then you unlock them. Like, what was the purpose? What was the point of having them unlockable in the first place? Other things like the boards, like it's different now because I remember way back then when I was just an only child playing on my N64. Mario Party 1 had a board in which you had you couldn't unlock like Bowser's Magma Mountain and the Eternal Star boards until you one of them was until you collect 100 stars, and that actually means when you finish a board game, the amount of stars that you got, they would be collected into a little bank, and I don't know, you maybe got 2 or 3 on average. How many
right.
games would you have to play in order to get all that? You'd have to do the little trickery of setting everybody to human players, because they only took from the human players, not the computer players. So you had to like there were people doing like 50 turn board games where the computer just did all that, and then on turn 49 they would switch to human players so that they would actually collect all the stars. That's a long grind if you want to do that these days.
Yeah,
And so I didn't really mind it back then because I didn't know that there were unlockables. That was a fun little thing. But now we live in the internet age that everything we know is on out there in the internet online, and we want to unlock things faster. We want to play games faster with our friends online. And the boards, yeah, definitely. Even when we were doing our stream for Mario Party Jamboree, nobody else had the boards except me. So
yeah,
we were able to actually play on Western Land because that's when you have to get a certain amount of achievements in order to unlock it, which means you do have to play the game. If you can't play Western Land or King Bowser's Keep or Mario's Rainbow Castle right away, if you wanted to do those boards first, you have to do the other ones, which can be a pain for some. Um, even other things like uh getting into well this other stuff like when you first start a mode you have to do training and then you can play with your friends online for Mario Party. But yeah,
yeah,
character unlocks, I always enjoyed those personally. I guess it comes from way back then when I would play those single player and I would just unlock characters naturally. Super Smash Brothers Melee is one that I think about often as well because I kept unlocking characters and I would hear the playground rumors of how to unlock these other characters and this mysterious pixelated question mark character that would move in frames called Mr. Game and Watch, and I was like, "Who are you talking about? I've never heard of this character
yeah.
ever." And I was like, "Oh wow!" And when I finally unlocked him, I was like, "This is amazing! This is so funny and hilarious." And I think Mewtwo was like the last one I would unlock because you had to play for so many hours logged in before actually unlocking them. Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of a pain nowadays if I wanted to do games like that. I think that's why Sakurai streamlined it for Ultimate because you can unlock characters fairly quickly, but not all at once. You had the very small starting roster, but he still wanted to give people that satisfaction of filling out the roster little by little. So these days, I don't really mind it. I mean, you're gonna play the game anyways, but I understand for those who want to play online that they don't get that opportunity to do everything that they want right when they buy the game. They want to enjoy all the content that they bought right away. So it's understandable from that perspective.
Yeah, I personally enjoy the process of unlocking like a character roster and seeing the roster grow bit by bit. However, I completely get the other side of it where if something's come out and you're gonna have a day one party to play with your friends or online and you want to have immediate access to all the characters. This is particularly true for fighting games, but also other genres like racing games and such, Mario Party, party games. This is something that I think a specific game did very well. Shovel Knight Showdown has a code where you can unlock everything temporarily. It's basically like a party mode code where, hey, if you just want to have immediate access to everything in the game, all the characters, all the stages, all the music, all the items, everything, you input this code, but then it doesn't let you save it. So it's just for that instance of the game, and then when you quit out of it, if you want to have everything again, you have to put in the code, and it never will let you save it to your save file. You have to, if you want to have that stuff permanently without putting in the code, you have to unlock it the traditional way. And I wish more games did that. I think that's the way to do it. I think that's like the perfect balance between making the players unlock all the game's features in the traditional way versus giving players the option of having everything for party or for some event that you're going to be doing. I think Shovel Knight Showdown does it right, and leave it to Yacht Club to figure this out and do something that's tackle such a controversial topic in such a perfect way. Um, so I do wish that Jamboree, for example, also had that. So for those of us who were playing at day one, like we did, that we would have had access to all the boards and everything right from moment one. But yeah,
That's a
personally, I think the showdown approach is the way to go.
that's a bit too advanced for Nintendo standards. I don't know if they could handle doing something like that.
I
uh,
agree. Yeah, and at least with Ultimate, as you said, Sakurai didn't make it particularly time consuming to unlock all the characters, but I remember that I had an Ultimate launch party, and it was a bummer not being able to have the entire roster from the get go and having things unlocked during that party. I just kind of wanted temporary access just for that night, and then I'll go back and unlock everything,
Yeah,
the proper way.
you had to do those parties like a week later. Like, all right, we have this game now, but we can't really do anything until we unlock the characters later. I remember I had that big issue when Brawl came out. We all got together right after launch nights when it released, but we couldn't really play as the characters we wanted to try out because they were all not they weren't unlocked. So there were two Wii's set up. One of them was just playing the game with the characters that were there. The other one was
Oh,
dedicated to playing through the subspace emissary as fast as possible, so we could get
nice.
all the other characters playing. That was the best compromise we were able to make back then. But yeah, it was really funny. There's some games that do it okay, and others that they're just kind of questionable. Like Mario Kart, you'll play Mario Kart 8, for example, and you'll unlock car parts very, very slowly, and then characters, some characters too. I think I forget. Was everyone unlockable? Already unlocked in Mario Kart 8? I forget at this point.
Don't
I think in
I
Deluxe
think
everybody
they
was there.
were. I think so. Yeah, I think they were already there, at least in deluxe.
Okay, yeah,
So,
I spent so much
yeah,
time getting car parts that I don't remember anymore. But yeah, that was
I'm
the
pretty sure it
real
was just car
grind.
parts. Right? Yeah,
Yeah, that was the real grind. Please,
yeah,
Nintendo, don't.
yeah. Okay, so in MK Deluxe, yes. On Wii U, no. Right. Okay. So
Mm,
yeah, I think yeah, more games should do it the Shovel Knight Showdown way. Not that I ever expect Nintendo to adopt that practice, but yeah, I love unlocking stuff, but I also get the argument from the other side that you just want to have it all right away for like a party or an event or something. So
yeah.
yeah. Well, cool. Anything else you want to say on that, Daniel?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you, Data for Lion, for the question.
Yeah, thanks so much. And then my question, my topic. this week comes from Joshua Hunter, asking, "Has there been a game that you've loved not for gameplay or graphics, but the in-game lore or storytelling?" And I picked this for two reasons. One, Joshua, you don't often submit topics, so I wanted to make sure to highlight yours because we don't see you submitting ones very often. So thank you for asking this question. And the other reason is because it dovetails perfectly with the topic we were talking about earlier today, which was the surprise announcement of Xenoblade Chronicles X. The Xenoblade series is like the poster child for this for me. Xenoblade is one of my favorite series of all time, but it's not for the gameplay and it's not for the graphics. It is for the storytelling and the characters and the music and the worlds, the exploration. The graphics, not. I'll say with the graphics, I do like the art design of the Xenoblade games, but obviously the graphical quality, there are, much better looking games out there. But in terms of the way the worlds themselves are designed, I love that about Xenoblade. But I mean, hell, Xenoblade 3 just a couple of years ago was my easy favorite for game of the year. And yet, I don't even really like the battle system in any Xenoblade game all that much. I don't hate them, but I don't particularly love them either. And yet, it was easily my game of the year because just of the incredible story and the wonderful characters and the amazing soundtrack and just getting to spend so much time exploring Ionios. And I explored every corner of that world. When I wasn't playing it, I was thinking of playing it and thinking of all the nooks and crannies I hadn't yet explored. And I was just, that story and those characters lived rent free in my head. And so, while I'd like to say it's always the case that the gameplay of a game is always the most important part for me and will what wins a game of the year for me, that's just not always true. And Xenoblade 3 was able to clinch that top spot for me pretty decisively without having a battle system that I even particularly loved. And it was all because of the vibes, the story and the characters and the vibes of the game and just existing in that world. So yeah, and I'm sure Xenoblade's not the only example for sure. I'd have to I need a little more time to think of other examples, but Xenoblade was just the one that came to my mind right away. But what about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I was gonna say Xenoblade.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because I already mentioned earlier in this discussion that I hadn't played the original Xenoblade Chronicles all the way through because the gameplay wasn't really for me. But then I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 afterwards, eventually, and like at first, yeah, it's definitely kind of you have to really feel around that battle system because as they add more mechanics on it, by the end of the game, the screen is just this plethora of menu icons and texts and little cues and whatnots. But I understood it by the end. I feel like I
uh-huh.
was doing calculus as I understood just doing driver combos, doing the party gauge, canceling attacks, and all this nonsense when you're doing like your full party combos. And it's something that I feel like I just kind of grew into, and so I was able to play other games a lot more confidently. Like Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is still hard for me to play, I think. Like there's just a bit missing that both 2 added onto it. And then it just kind of evolved into a battle system that I agreed more with as time went on because like Torna was also a really good one where they kind of simplified a bit of what was difficult to understand in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and they applied that to Xenoblade 3 as well. So the
Mhm.
Xenoblade 3 is probably the most fun for me to play as well. So that's a really good one for me to talk about. And I love the stories of these as well. Like the following the stories of Xenoblade Chronicles is something that I've always been very interested in following, and I haven't really considered like how much that's going to affect me when I'm playing Chronicles X because it is mostly gameplay. It's less about the
Right.
story, more about like the world itself. But I have seen people like align it with Zelda Majora's Mask, in which you can play for just a story. You can just go straight through and do just that, but you're missing the main point of the world around it, which is a very much living, thriving world in which there's a lot of characters that you can interact with and communicate with and talk to and learn about. And so I hope everyone can't hear that vacuum in the background. It's very loud for me right now.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah.
I was like, what's that sound?
But yeah, I'm trying to figure out what other ones I don't enjoy the gameplay of, or I don't enjoy that aspect of it, so that I played mostly for the story.
Well,
Hmm.
actually, I was just thinking, keeping it within the Xeno series at large, I don't think the Xenosaga 1 and 2 were particularly good games. I think they were fine. Well, I think 1 was a fine game, 2 was pretty mid, but I played them specifically for the story and the characters and the music and the universe. I didn't care that the gameplay itself wasn't that great because I was so invested in the universe and the story and the characters. So that's, I would say, just yeah, just more another example within the Xeno series writ large. That does not apply, however, to Xenosaga 3 or Xenogears because those games rule and have amazing battle systems. So, since we're just coming off of Spooky Month, I was just thinking, basically, Silent Hill and Fatal Frame. I wouldn't say that I particularly love the gameplay of either of those games. I think they're fine, and I enjoy playing them enough, but they're not the reason that I play those games. I play those games for the vibes and for the atmosphere and for the stories and to get creeped out. And it's not because I enjoy the gameplay, a whole hell of a lot necessarily.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, there's just not a lot of games that I can say that I play for the story over the gameplay. I don't know. I just kind of adapt to it as time goes on. I don't know. You could count like some of the the more recent Paper Mario games. Like I enjoy listening to the characters and listen just their dialogue, but man, playing the game itself was kind of a slog.
Yeah, that's so true. And this is a great one, Saidu. Earthbound. Yeah, I love Earthbound. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But it's not because of the battle system. The battle system's fine. It's not bad. It's perfectly fine. But the battle system is pretty much the last thing I think of when I think of all the reasons I adore Earthbound. Right?
I think the Mother series battle system really peaked with Mother 3 because
It did.
it
Yeah.
has it's interactive. Like I've always loved any battle system in which you interact with it and don't just hit the button and tell them to go. Like I love those games anyways. I'm playing Metaphor for crying out loud. And I love the Persona series and Mission Megami Tensei. But always the ones where you do like anything that is like action commands is something that I really love. And so
Same.
when
Yeah.
you're tapping the button to the rhythm of the beat in Mother 3, that's something that really it really needed that in my opinion. And
Agreed.
so those are certain things that I think get a bit of a pass from me. I'm fine with Mother 3 Earthbound's gameplay as well. Like I think it was just it left a scar on me because very early on it's very hard to
Yeah.
progress. So I thought I wasn't gonna like that game, but I kept giving it a try, and once you get past like Onet, that's when I think the game started to feel a lot better for me because it's hard in the opening hours. So
It
that
is. Earthbound
yeah.
starts off very difficult and very unforgiving, and I would say in the extreme late game too, depending on what enemy mobs you're sometimes unlucky with getting. The extreme late game can also be surprisingly hard at times, but it's mainly the early game that's super punishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like Earthbound's battle system is good. It's just not why I love Earthbound as much as I do, compared to the story and the world and the vibes and the characters and the music and everything.
hmm Oh yeah,
But
I have adapted to the Earthbound ways, and I always appreciate and love the scrolling health bar. That's such a unique idea that we've never seen in any other game since then.
it's so cool, right? See, I'm trying to think of other examples. I guess maybe one that kind of falls into this category for me is Kid Icarus Uprising, and that's not because I don't think the gameplay is pretty great, because I think it is. But that's not my favorite thing about Kid Icarus Uprising. Like not even close. My favorite thing about that game, my favorite things are the presentation and the characters and the voice acting and the music and just the way it all comes together. But it's not actually the moment to moment gameplay that is why I love that game so damn much.
Sakurai designed that game so you would feel the exact kind of wrist pain that he has daily. He's a very immersive man that way.
Yeah,
But yeah, I love the on rail sections. They could just all be that
me too.
instead. If they were all that, I'd be down with it because those are very exciting.
I
But
agree.
it's the
Yeah,
on foot ones that I could care less for at times.
yeah, yeah. If they were all on rails, like those on rails sections rule so much, and I kind of wish it was all those for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there are any others that really fall into this category for me, but Xenoblade was
Hmm.
just such an obvious obvious answer for me. I guess someone earlier did mention Majora's Mask, and I will say Majora's Mask. It's an awesome game. It's definitely a Zelda game that I love, but it's not one that I enjoy going back to play as much as games like Ocarina of Time or The Wind Waker because I don't like games with time limits. I just find that to be stressful. Now, of course, you have the inverted Song of Time to make it less stressful and all that. But like for me, Majora's Mask is the game that I love because of its atmosphere and its characters and story and exploring Termina more than it is because I enjoy actually playing it all that much. So I feel like Majora's Mask, if there's any Zelda game that really falls into that category for me, it would be Majora's Mask.
I love the time loop. I
Yeah.
love the where people are yelling here. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. I can't even hear it.
um, yeah, I'm very much a fan of that game. I could do a whole discussion on just Majora's Mask itself, so I'll hold back a bit. But yeah, I think it's just really clever how they incorporated the actual team's time limit to make this game and incorporated that very thoughtfully and smartly into the game as well, where you just have to loop the same 3 days and somehow made a game out of a very smaller world. I know a
Right.
lot of people are kind of down on the game, but that there's only 4 dungeons, but it's really about like all the dungeons, the miniature dungeons that are in between, scattered throughout the game as well too. Just a different format. It's the game that changed the format as much as not as much as Zelda 2, but it definitely changed the format of the games from Link's Awakening, not Link's, I guess Link's Awakening, Links to the Past and Ocarina of Time. And so yeah, it's a weird game for sure, but what they did with the story and characters, I think, is fascinating.
Agreed, agreed. Amamrag, that's a great shout. Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, or 358 days over two.
Oh
That's a
gosh.
great one. That is not a game I enjoy playing whatsoever. But I played that specifically for the story and the characters. Absolutely. Same thing, honestly, with Chain of Memories. I actually, and if Vash was here, he'd have plenty to say to me about this, as he has in the past. But I actively am hostile to the gameplay in Chain of Memories. I hate that battle system, but it's an important part of the Kingdom Hearts story, and I like the story. I love the characters. I love the music, the vibes, but I hate playing it. Actually, yeah,
Chain of Memories. I still enjoy the Game Boy Advance version more. There's something about that that just feels more charming
yeah.
to me.
I
Um,
can see that the pixel art and stuff.
I don't. It's not my favorite, but I do enjoy parts of it. I don't know. Games with card systems are always kind of fun to me in their own ways, but incorporating that to
Mhm.
Kingdom Hearts was kind of strange. It
Agreed.
was a choice. It was definitely a choice, but
It's definitely a
I
choice.
feel like I'm a little less harsh on that game than others.
Hmm.
I see. I see.
Vash
Yeah,
still doesn't have the platinum. I'm surprised. He loves that game so much. I'm surprised he doesn't have it.
and I see a lot of great examples in chats now. Blakers
Yeah.
saying, "Love Pikmin, do not like the gameplay." Well, I mean, I guess there's lore in Pikmin for the story and whatnots, but the
Hmm.
gameplay, I know that's Pikmin is the most relaxing, stressful game I've ever played in my life. Especially Pikmin 2. Pikmin 2 is like my favorite in the series, but that's like the most painful one for a lot of people because of how mean the little dungeons are. But yeah,
Yeah.
uh, play Pikmin 4. That one's a lot less stressful, I believe, especially in a lot of cases now, where it's very kind to newcomers.
I've never been able to get into Pikmin, but I feel like if I was gonna be able to, 4 would be the one that would draw me in, which I haven't played it yet, just because I've played a little bit of 1, 2, and 3, and all of them have just I recognize that they're great games. They just haven't appealed to me,
Hmm.
but the more kind of third person view camera from, like, behind the shoulder or behind the character, uh look of 4 appeals to me a little bit more, I think, than the top-down view of 1 through 3, so and there's, of course, there's Ochi, and dogs make everything better, so I think if any Pikmin game might ever be able to draw me in, it'd be 4. That's
Yeah,
my
I
guess
think
anyway.
4 is the
Yeah.
one. There's a lot of aspects of Pikmin that I enjoy. I guess it's just games where weirdly enough, I don't really like thinking a lot, but I like strategy games. It's weird,
Yeah.
but
It
yeah.
takes a very specific like, kind of strategy game for me, like, by and large, I don't like strategy games like tactics RPGs or real-time strategy, but I love me some Final Fantasy Tactics. I love me some Front Mission 3. It's really weird, but it's a very specific kind of tactics game that really it takes to draw me in, but when it does, it really does.
That's me with first-person shooters and Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
That's my whole deal
So
with that series.
yeah. Well, Joshua, thank you so much for that topic. That was super fun to talk about. And again, we don't see you submitting topics all that often, so thank you for asking this question. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I do believe that brings us to the end here of episode 120 of the GVGcast. So as always, I want to thank all of you in our audience for spending some of your Friday afternoon / evening with us and welcoming the weekend with us. We love doing this almost every week with all of you, and we wouldn't be here if not for you. So thank you so very much for doing this with us. As always, we have to give a special shout out to all of our patrons at the producer tier and above for helping to make everything we do here happen. And also, as always, we have to give an extra special shout out to all of our patrons at the executive producer tier and above. And those fine, amazing, wonderful folks include Brandon Bovia, Fames, OG Pepsi Dealer, Z Patty, Sky Blue Flames, Eastman23, Adam O'Sullivan, Richard Herrera, Logan Daniel, The D-Pad, Blake, Joy Content, Angel Martinez, Vedron, Joshua Hunter, Benny Yao, Azran127, Geeky Griffin, Wataniac, Top Dog 23100, Young Ben Kenobi, Andrew Medeiros, Becca, Esax08, Michael McCaw, Matthew Wong, Goron Amber CPHT, Too Much Spaghetti, Bane 400, Ascaron 809, Ryaner, Game Bear Advance, The Game Org, Super Gamer Dude 101, Rosa Pardo Bowling, hi Steve's mom, Darksteel01, Jason Uloa, Jaden Buck, Cystic Warrior 29, Derek, Colin, Blaystar 25, Wylord, Mumbling Yeti, Cameron Sharp, Peel, Usselbun, Noah Fitterer, Alvin Atkinson, Brainchild, Jim Wakeland, Aramis Baramis, Lord Metarex, Blaze Collard, Eric, Cat Evie Person 5, Mega Beatman True Blue Reviews, Ryan Hanley, The Game Jamie, Zombie Joe, and last but certainly not least, Marathon Max. But I'll tell you who is last, my camera, because it just died again, just in time for the end of the show. Anyway, thank you all so much. We'll see you soon for episode 121. We are going to go to our patron exclusive post show. Have a great weekend, everybody. Good night and good vibes. Bye.
Till we meet again.